think about the thing that you want, or maybe like the person that's doing the thing that you want to do, and then go to where that is physically,
Mm,
um, or as physically as you can, and be active there. When people are looking to give recommendations, if they're looking for partnerships, if they're looking for JVs, they're going to go to the people around them first. And you want to be that person that's on their mind. So if you want to think about what's going on and you want to be in that place for that thing that you want, this is also true of clients. If you think about, I want to get clients, or where are the people that are going to buy your products or services? Where are they? Go there and be present there. And that's the way that you're going to learn if people like your products or services, if they're effective, if you can bring them to market. It's going to help you iterate and get feedback and put out a better product. But also, it's also how you're going to get sales for your products and services as well if you're physically present there. I think a lot of people want to start something online and think that they can just kind of be all the way back, and sales or whatever is just going to come to them, and that's not really how it works. You need to go to where the thing is that you want and be present in that location.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with the patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Kyle Roop. And Kyle started out his journey going to high school in Virginia. Went to college and played golf in college, I think on a golfing scholarship, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Went to law school in Penn State and was a trial attorney and also did divorce law for a period of time. Wife at the time was doing criminal law. Then moved to South Korea to teach school for kids for a period of time. And then started a website or started a business there as well and built a website for the business. And then started getting general contracting website building as a business, and did that for a period of time, and did it for independent contractors that were, or had many independent contractors that were in India. Got shook down by the police in India, which you can share a little bit about. And then that business slowed down and shifted over to doing an SEO business. And just recently sold that to an agency or a web development part of the business sold to an agency, and is focusing, I think, primarily on SEO. So hopefully mostly accurate and as a good introduction, but welcome on the podcast, Kyle.
No, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you on. So I just gave a quick run through to a much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack that a bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started in going to high school in Virginia.
Yeah, so I went to a small high school in Norfolk, Virginia. Played a couple sports there, and then I did play golf in college. It was Division III, so I did not have a golf scholarship, but it was still a lot of fun. My sophomore year, I think I became the first player ever to be named all conference. I then got a girlfriend, and I was not all conference ever again. That's
Fair
my
enough.
time was
Girl,
occupied elsewhere.
girls, especially in high school, tend to occupy time and shift a bit of priorities. So makes perfect sense. So you went on.
But yeah,
So you
then
played golfing in high school, and then you went off to college and went off to undergraduate. And what did you study or do there?
yeah, I majored in psychology, and psychology is definitely intro to grad school. So I from there went, and then I took the LSAT, did pretty well, and then I got into Penn State and went to law school there, and I went back to Virginia to practice, and I practiced for 4 years back in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I did trial work, divorce, custody, and support, and some criminal defense.
Now, I think as we talked a little bit before, and I can't remember if it's current wife, ex-wife, and by no means if she's the current wife, if I putting words in your mouth. But did you guys meet, or she's also an attorney? Did you meet in high school? Did you meet after in the court system, or how did that aspect of the journey get started?
Yeah, we met in law school. Actually, the day before law school started at the like orientation dinner, And it turns out we were in the same research and writing class at Penn State. They kind of clumped about 20 students together, and those 20 would then be paired up with other groupings, and that made up your first year classes. But we didn't start dating until about 3 years later, towards the very end of law school. And then, yeah, she also did trial work. She did criminal defense and got up into the fun, violent felony type stuff. And after about 4 years, we were both pretty burnt out. And we decided just to take 1 year off. And that's when we moved to South Korea, which is really an A to B kind of move, I think. Most people go right from law to South Korea, where we ended
Now,
up teaching English.
now, what was it about South Korea and teaching? I mean, I certainly get the burned out, and they're all professions, but I think the legal profession does tend to have a pretty high burnout rate, and you have long days, and you're working with difficult situations, and you just after a while to say, hey, I need a break. So that certainly makes sense. But what made you decide to go to Korea and go into teaching for the break?
We were really kind of figuring out what to do, you know. We didn't have much of an idea, and my wife actually saw an ad online and said teach English like in Croatia or something like that. She's like, would it be crazy if we just like took the year off and taught English somewhere? And I was like, that would be crazy. And then I started researching, and it looked like from the research that I had that Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan seemed like the best opportunities for, because I really wanted to travel. And they all kind of had really good programs through different government agencies. Like in Japan, it's called the JET program, and in Korea, it's called the EPIC program. So that's what we got into. But decent enough pay, good benefits, lots of time off, well structured, so you knew you weren't just going to be kind of tossed into the wolves. And there'd be kind of a good environment there to do this and kind of just take that year off. And that 1 year then turned into 5 years basically, where we're just kind of like, I don't know that we're gonna go back to being lawyers.
Makes perfect sense. And I said I have a lot of friends from law school. I'm an attorney as well, and the some of them love the law and they're still there, and others got into it and said this isn't what I thought it would be, or it's not where I want my life to end up, and they went other directions. And I think it just is indicative or represents that sometimes you go in a different direction than you initially intend. And so now you guys are there for 5 years, and what kind of made you guys decide to wrap it up there, or what kind of concluded the 5 years? Because 5 years is a good time. You must have enjoyed being there, at least for a period of time. What made you decide to kind of put an end to the teaching or shift gears?
Sure. Well, so we were working in the public school system in the EPIC program, and then we started our own business with a Korean business partner, actually starting a private school. And in that process, we actually built a pretty complex website for that business. And that took a long time. It took getting through a lot of developers. And once that website was done, I realized I had a really strong crew of developers. And I kind of thought, well, maybe on the side, I could just kind of do some general contracting for websites and web design. And that's what I started doing. And that started to take off and was actually doing pretty well. And I brought my brother into the business. He does web design and development. And we got the bright idea of, well, we've got these guys that are basically freelancers in India. If we go to India, we could actually open up a business there. And then we'd have everybody kind of in one room, and we'd be able to have better quality control, get more work out of them, and be more cost effective. And we could really scale this and grow it. And that's what we did. We found a small town in the northeastern corner of India, in the foothills of the Himalayas. It's very nice. And yeah, so we set up business. So we had about 11 employees, I think. And we were in a building where the first floor is the business and the second floor are apartments. It's kind of how it was set up. And as you mentioned, we were told we get a shakedown from the police. That's just kind of how it goes. And we were prepared for that. And my brother was there at the time, and I was actually in the US, and there's a knock on the door, and it's the police. And they asked my brother to see our business papers. And he said, here are the papers. And they said, these are the wrong papers. And he was like, okay, how much do you want? And instead of a bribe, they put him in handcuffs and threw him in jail, which was not anticipated. And so my brother's talking to the chief of police, and he goes, look, these could be the right papers. I don't know. You have two choices. You can leave town tomorrow, or you can sit in jail and wait for the magistrate to come, and the magistrate will sort this out. And my brother goes, well, when does the magistrate come? And the chief of police says, I don't know. So my brother goes, I think I'll leave town tomorrow. So he runs back. Obviously, our employees have fled. They don't want to be involved in that. We get them out of India. We get them back to the US, and now we're hemorrhaging clients because we don't have people to work on stuff. And this is my brother, because he does code and he does design development. He's like, I can basically take these 4 clients, and as we're kind of, the business is dissolving around us. And we had just started doing this thing called SEO. And really, in order for me to pay the rent next month, I had to figure it out that day to keep those clients and keep the income we were expecting to get from them. And that's pretty much what I did.
So now you said, okay, sounds like, or primarily by necessity, say, okay, Indian thing didn't, thought it would work out, thought we'd plan for it, and if we get a shakedown, we'll deal with it, but didn't necessarily anticipate having the potential to going to jail. So decided, okay, probably not worth any business isn't worth being stuck in a foreign country in jail. And now as you're shifting gears, how did you, SEO is, it sounds a little bit like you started to dip your toe into it. It's pretty predominant today, and it's one where there's a lot of firms, a lot of people that do it. Earlier on, it was one that there was a lot fewer people with skill sets, and wasn't as competitive. But as you're getting into SEO, making that pivot, how did the pivot go? Is it one where all your clients just switched over from website design to SEO, and you had a pretty good foundation, or it was more starting over, or you had to figure out a new business, or kind of how did that go as you made that pivot and that shift?
It was a lot more starting over than anything. We were able to keep the clients that had kind of signed on to do that, and I was able to retain those clients and their contracts, and then begin to grow it out from there. A big thing at the time, so this was like 2013, 2014 is when this was going on, and a big thing, like, so I'm frantic to learn how to do this, right? And so you do the search, like, is this a ranking factor? Is this something that I should do? And when you do that type of search, you get 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 3 maybes. And that's not really a great way to learn anything. And then it occurred to me, I was like, oh, you know what? Everybody's running their own test sites. And so that's when I started putting test sites together and actually learning how you could test Google's algorithm to determine if something is or is not a ranking factor. And that is actually was able to accelerate my my knowledge quite quickly, because I was actually running tests and figuring out what is and is not a factor, what does and does not work, what's stronger and what's weaker. In 2015, I did my first speaking appearance on SEO, and I did it on setting up SEO tests and the method that I had created to run tests on Google's algorithm. And this was a really high level conference. There were only about 40, 50 people in the room, and it was a really high level group. And I thought this would be more of a dialogue, like, here, this is how I'm testing. How are you testing? And what I realized about 5 minutes into this talk was that nobody's testing. People really aren't doing this. And that's when I realized I might be on to something in terms of how I'm doing this approach, that it's a very scientifically based approach, a mathematical approach to it. It's not, pixie dust and wizardry and magic. It's actually Google's algorithm. It is an algorithm, and you can test it and you can do the math for it. And then I realized I think I actually might be really on something with this. And I was really able to grow kind of what we do in SEO from that. And that's now the agency, SaaS tool, and also a community type thing. And it's all based on that concept of how to test Google's algorithm.
No, that makes sense. And it's funny, sometimes like, this is pretty obvious or straightforward. And then you come to find out, hey, you figured out something new that's different, that works better, and it presents an opportunity. So that's awesome that you're able to get that figured out, and also, hit the market in a different way. So that was, even as you're doing that now, 2015, and kind of figuring out, hey, maybe we have a bit of a different system that might provide a bit more value, catch us up. So, that's 7 coming up on 8 years ago. So how has it gone since then? Have you guys kind of said, hey, we're just going to stay a small firm, and it's just going to be me or a couple other people? Have you grown, brought on new clients? So, I think we also mentioned that you sold off a portion of the business. So kind of walk us through how the last 7 or 8 years gone for you in the business.
It's been an amazing ride, actually, watching the growth of it. So I have a business partner, Andy Steven, and he and I founded the agency. And then out of the agencies where other businesses have grown out of, which I think was a really good, I want to pretend that it was some master plan, but it was just more like, this is something that we're doing in the agency. And it's kind of like, would you like to see this? It kind of look like going to other industry experts, be like, do you like this? Would you use this? And like, we would. And that's kind of then how like the software grew out of it. And also the teaching that I was doing inside of our own agency, that then became like our courses platform and stuff like that. But what we were able to sell off was actually the agency itself, that we put together and built over 8 years. We retained the software and the community. Those are different companies. kind of owned by a parent company, but the agency itself was acquired by a Jamaican web design and development firm just about 3 months ago.
And what was the motivation for selling it off? Just timing was right, or looking for a bit of an exit, or want to go in a different direction, or kind of,
Cash,
or something else?
cash money. Cash. No, it was so our it's an interesting kind of thing. A lot of people think that they want to sell their company when it's plateaued or maybe it's on the downturn. And honestly, nobody wants to buy your problems. Nobody's like, oh, you know what, I really, because everybody says like, oh, we're kind of flat, but all you have to do is come in with your vision and you can take it off. And that's not anything that anyone wants to buy. People want to buy something that's on the way up and they can come in and maintain that growth and then perhaps add to it from there. And so we were at a point of explosive growth within the agency, and we had always kind of built with the idea of getting an exit. That this wasn't going to be our forever jobs. That this is built to exit, and once we hit that area of sustained growth, and you could see a vision for the future that not only are we growing at a nice clip right now, this will continue for at least another year under the current path that we're on, and that was the right time to get out.
Makes sense. So you're saying, hey, good time to get out, upward trajectory, and it'll make the business more favorable and appetizing to people that are wanting to acquire it. Now, if I remember, and you can correct me wrong, you didn't sell off all the business, or you kept a portion of it for yourself, which is what you're now solely focused on today. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So we built them as separate companies. So we have a SaaS, but it was its own company, and we have a courses platform and also a platform where we do tests on Google's algorithm. Those are all separate companies. So we just sold the agency, which was an independent company, and now the focus is on those other two companies.
Well, makes good sense. So now is that you're kind of shifted and made that focus onto the current business. Where do you kind of see that going in the next 6 to 12 months? Kind of just continuing to expand and grow that, as looking to position this one for sale as well, or this one's a longer term business, and this is where you want to sink your teeth in for the rest of your career. Kind of where do you see things headed?
Well, I see both of them set for growth as well. They're both growing at a nice clip, and I think with more time, especially my business partner's time as well, because he is more the marketer than I am. I'm more of the strategy type person. He is more the running the business type person and doing the marketing for it. And with his ability to focus a little bit more on these other ones, we see them doubling within the next 3 years. And the plan then would be to exit somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 years on both of those.
Well, sounds like a good trajectory. And now, just out of begging the question, is because you're setting up. So you're saying next 3 to 5 years is kind of where you see continuing to build it, continuing to improve it, and then eventually, doing a similar thing where you're selling it off. Any idea, and I know it's a little bit more out in the future than sometimes it's easy to forecast, but where do you see, if you were to sell it off, what would be the next adventure?
That's a great question. And I would think, because, people like yourself and myself, I know we can't turn our brains off. So part of me would like to say that I'm just retired, but I know that that's not possible. So I'm confident I'll think of something, but it will be nice that there's really no pressure on money anymore at that point. That these exits will be large enough. This exit was fantastic, but it's not completely life-changing money, and the next ones very well could be. So at least maybe working on projects that are a little more passion projects, if you will, not so dependent upon making sure that they are extremely profitable.
Well, sounds like that'd be a nice place to be, where it's less of a concern on money. Not that you don't always want to be profitable, make money, but then you can also say, hey, these are just also passion projects. Would be a fun place to be. And so sounds like you're setting yourself up over the next few years to hopefully be in that great situation. So, well, now as we are kind of are arrived at the present day of the journey, even looking a bit into the future, it's always a great time to transition to the two questions I always ask towards the end of each episode. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
Yeah, probably opening the company in India was probably the worst one. That was a point in my life. That cost me about $30,000, and it was a point in my life when I had about $31,000. So it's great because it was like my origin story, and it makes for a fun story at parties. And ultimately, it did do me a lot of good. But it wasn't great in the moment, and that was kind of hard. It wasn't all that great. Maybe the lesson learned would be, maybe we're a little overextended, in terms of not having a runway and not really having a good lay of the land and stuff like that. So we might have been a bit overextended, but really, I don't know. You can't always count on corruption. So, but it was definitely not the best business decision for sure.
No, and I think sometimes you get into it, and I think there are a lot of businesses. You look at offshoring, and you look at different virtual, and sometimes it works out great. And I have several clients, and we even utilize some of it where you utilize virtual assistants or people that are in different countries, and it can offer a good paying job for them, and it offers you less expensive labor. But you also have to realize there are drawbacks to that, and that it's not always going to work out the same, and it's not the same landscape as you're dealing with a lot of times in the US. And so, with that, I think that makes perfect sense that, it's a easy mistake to make, but also a great one to learn from and set you up to how you structure the businesses differently going forward. Second question
Sure.
I always ask then is now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
When I get asked this question, the thing that I always think about is, think about the thing that you want, or maybe like the person that's doing the thing that you want to do, and then go to where that is, physically,
Mm.
or as physically as you can, and be active there. When people are looking to, give recommendations, if they're looking for partnerships, if they're looking for JVs, they're going to go to the people around them first. And you want to be that person that's on their mind. So if you want to think about what's going on and you want to be in that place, for that thing that you want. This is also true of clients. If you think about, I want to get clients, or where are the people that are going to buy your products or services? Where are they? Go there and be present there. And that's the way that you're going to learn, if people like your products or services, if they're effective, if you can bring them to market. It's going to help you iterate, and get feedback and put out a better product. But also, it's also how you're going to get sales for your products and services as well if you're physically present there. I think a lot of people want to start something online and think that they can just kind of be all the way back, and sales or whatever is just going to come to them, and that's not really how it works. You need to go to where the thing is that you want and be present in that location.
No, I think that's great. I think that the myth that you see with all the YouTube videos and all the ads online is, hey, all you got to do is come up with an idea, buy some Facebook ads or Google ads, and you're set, and everybody will just give you lots of money, which
The
you'll
money's just going
quickly
to come
find out
raining in.
that it's not the case at all. So I think that that's a great piece of advice and a great takeaway. Well, now as we wrap towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
They can hit me at kyleroof.com. That's the best place.
KyleRoof.com is an easy one to remember. So, well, awesome. Well, simple and easy as that is. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. If you can make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review, really helps us to be able to share these journeys with even more startups and small businesses. And on that note, if you ever need help with your startup or your small business with patents, trademarks, or anything else, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Thank you again, Kyle, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.